Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today we are drinking and podcasting as we discuss this very interesting episode that we have in front of us today. But before we get into that, joining me, as always, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
I feel like I have the worst case of bedhead I've had on the show in a while, but I got a haircut last week, so like it doesn't look quite as bad, I guess, as it could. But I feel like I'm pulling the look off here. I know a lot of people are just listening, but I just want them to know that I look ultra, mega, halfway fancy.
Well, for what it's worth, if it helps at all, from my perspective, you are so backlit that I can't even really tell. You look like a Super Smash Brothers character that's challenging to enter, or a new challenger approaches.
Oh, right. That's awesome. I'm a shining beacon of hope in this terrible, terrible world.
Hilarious that I didn't notice. Sorry.
That's a podcast for another time. We've got an interesting episode to talk about today. This is one that definitely, I think, maybe you laugh a little bit more as a child, but as an adult, you're like, ooh, there's a little bit of serious tones at times in this one that may hit close to home for some of us, but we'll get into that, I guess. Let me go ahead and throw it back to you. The man, the myth, the talkie tiki, because you talk a lot. That's Miles.
We are talking about Days of Wine and Doses today, which originally aired on April 9th, 2000, which Days of Wine and Roses is the titles, or what the title is a parody of, something I have never seen. I don't think you have either, but that's where we get the name. Guess. Yeah. We get a chalkboard gag of "I was not touched there" by an angel, which is great. Honestly, pretty edgy for a chalkboard gag in a lot of ways. The show I was touched by an angel. The show Touched by an Angel was very popular at this time, or in the late 90s.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, to give it that little extra, as if they were touched by a priest type of joke, it seems.
Yeah, or just that the angel's very touchy.
Yeah, not there.
Mm-hmm.
But we also get a couch gag, which is, I believe if it's not a redo, it's very similar to one that we've seen in the past, which is the Simpsons run up to their own couch, which is already occupied by the Simpsons from the Tracy Ullman era. And the great part of this is both sets of families are terrified of each other because they look so different.
I don't know why that extra little touch just makes it enjoyable.
Yeah, the screaming and running and fleeing. Yeah, which, to be fair, I don't know what would be more terrifying: to meet somebody that looks exactly like you, essentially you realize you've been cloned, or to see somebody that looks almost exactly like you but clearly very wrong in many ways.
But maybe an alligator form or something.
Yeah, in a multiverse of madness, if you will.
There are variants. It's okay, but which one was the variant?
That's a very good point, man. Okay. Oh my God, Gator Loki is one of my favorites, though. I feel so stupid, dude. The first time I saw that scene, I didn't even realize that was there. I'm looking in the background for all the cool stuff, and they just this kid's holding this alligator in the foreground, and I completely overlooked it.
With the freaking Loki helmet on. It's all right. I think that's the point.
Very much. And, that's kind of a tie into Marvel Comics, which I'm stretching here hard. But I was going to talk about how this story in general is one of those episodes that it almost reminds me more of the Simpsons comic adventures than it does in a traditional episode of The Simpsons. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but...
Well, you did do a stretch there from Marvel Comics to Simpsons Comics, but you're just talking about the storyline in general, how it seems more on page than on screen, I guess. So
yeah, it just almost feels like if you're reading a Simpsons comic, one of the collection books, not an individual book, but whatever they're called when there's several comics all paired together.
Mm-hmm.
Usually,
I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. But usually it's the third story in one of those is always some wacky adventure, usually with Bart and Lisa doing something and something crazy happening. I think I said the same thing, actually, now that I say that, on the Missionary Impossible episode. I think I made a very similar comment. I feel like I'm literally just now remembering that in this moment. But yeah, Missionary Impossible, where they kind of have that sequence at the end where everything kind of burns up. They changed the way they told that joke because they did a cutaway gag. But in this one, it felt like that to some extent.
So just whenever there's fire, you feel like that.
Yeah, that's it. If the Simpsons put fire on the episode, I just assume it should be in a comic book because paper burns, Richie. That's the thing. Yeah,
fire doesn't go through doors, silly. It's not ghosts.
Exactly.
Sorry, that's when they did that. My mind jumped to Community when I was watching the episode, and I saw that too. I couldn't.
Oh no! Honestly, great observation. So this one is a weird episode for a few reasons, other than just my opinion that it should be a comic book. But no, I'll go ahead and say from the commentary real quick. This episode featured Neil Affleck, which was one of the directors via
other brother.
Yeah, exactly. He was doing the teleconference thing, like the Skype equivalent of 2007, which might have been Skype. I don't know. It also featured Ian Maxtone Graham, George Meyer, Mike Scully, and we also get participation from Dan Castellaneta, who we know as the voice of Homer and Barney, and his wife, Deb LaCosta. The interesting thing about this episode, though, is Dan Castellaneta wasn't just the voice actor for this episode. He and his wife co-wrote this episode together.
Oh, very, very interesting. I didn't even notice that in the credits. Like, oh, that's just adds a whole other like thought process to this episode. Huh.
It really does. And immediately it made for a very interesting commentary track because they got into like the origins of how this all came to be. And basically, Dan and his wife worked on this script secretly, like in private, like aside from the show. He was doing the voices and, his normal thing, not telling anybody that he was also writing this script. And so they basically made a spec script of The Simpsons, only unlike most people who write a spec script for The Simpsons, Dan Castellaneta had immediate access to the writers of the show, which is where Mike Scully comes in, the showrunner at the time for this episode. He vividly remembers walking in and seeing this script on his desk. And as soon as he saw that it was written by Dan Castellaneta, he said in the commentary, his first thought was, oh shit, what if this is bad? Because the truth is, most spec scripts are bad. That's just the way of the world. I mean, like, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from trying, but like The Simpsons is a famously difficult show to write a spec script for, and it's also one of like the most prolific because everybody thinks they can write a Simpsons script.
Well, and it's also one of those things too where it's like they've done TV series like sitcom episodes about this or like drama things about this where like the actor all of a sudden wants to try his hand in something else and you're like, oh my god, this is gonna be terrible. And then they're the lead of the show, so you have to be like, oh yeah, we can do this, and then the show's gonna burn in flames because you did this one thing you knew was bad. So like, right. I'm sure there's a lot of that thought going on here, like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a nightmare.
A ton of pressure put onto this situation because of the existing relationship and the importance that Dan is to the show. Like, yeah, you don't want to have to tell the voice of Homer and so many other great characters that, sorry, buddy, your ideas are crap.
They're going to have to make Homer die on the way back to his home planet if this doesn't work out.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be a part of Crappinfest if they're not careful. But Mike Scully did say they were very, very pleased and admittedly surprised, but also pleased that there was actually a really good story in this script. And of course, just like any script with The Simpsons, it did have to go through rewrites. It got the writer's room treatment, but they very much took what those two, again, Dan and his wife, created. And that is the episode that we're largely watching here today to review.
I'm glad it worked out.
I do have some more interesting things I'll say from the commentary to talk about, but before we get to those, let's go ahead and dive into the episode just a little bit. We get the opening is essentially Homer and Bart are celebrating a holiday, it would seem, something that the French call La Nuit des Poubelles, the Germans call Krappenfest, and what everyone else refers to as garbage night. And essentially, we see that these two are dumpster diving is what they are doing.
Yeah, but he even points out how like the best stuff is usually on the bottom.
Yep,
and reaches really far. Like
this used pacifier for Maggie.
Oh God,
she'll be so thrilled
just with that trash gunk dipping off the pacifier, the sucky part. Oh.
I think a good way for us in like life and society to kind of like identify if we're on the right path is to look around and see who's doing the same things we're doing with us. So you know that they're on a good path in life when they see that Cletus and his sister wife Brandine are doing the exact same thing. Cletus is so excited. Looky here, some cardboard tubes.
Now we can have indoor plumbing, just like they's got at the women's lockup.
They spoiled you, Brandine. Sometimes I don't even know who you are anymore. As Bart is digging through Millhouse's or the Van Houten's trash, Bart finds his My Little Pony blankie, which is just a quick throwaway joke.
Well, but they're like, now we can. Bart's like, I can hold this as a ransom, and if he wants it back, it doesn't want anyone to find out. And Homer's like, well,
piece by piece.
Homer's like, if you cut it up and sell piece by piece, it'll work even better. And Milhouse is watching through the window. He's just like terrified.
Yeah, he knows what's happening. He's gonna get blackmailed. We also see that comic book guy is throwing away a stack of unwanted comics. And there's a funny scene here where almost like, I don't know, raccoons in an alley or like strays of some sort. Like all these nerds come sulking out of the shadows and they go like digging through for these comics that are essentially free now. But all they find are She-Hulk versus Leon Spinks, which as comic book describes it, worst crossover ever.
You still when you're throwing comics away, anybody will take anything there in that situation.
I mean, honestly, that's absolutely true. And I do want to point out that the She-Hulk versus Leon Spinks are a reference to the 1970s comic series. In real life, they had a Muhammad Ali versus Superman comic book.
Well, who would win, Miles?
That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one.
What if he had kryptonite in his boxing gloves?
That's, I think, exactly how it went down. But then at the end, Superman tried to recruit him to fight in the war, and Ali ran away. So, it all worked out.
Oh, speaking of jabbing, Jesus.
No, I think he did the right thing, dude. I think war is stupid. Good for Ali.
Oh, it seemed like you were taking shots at him there.
Oh, I mean, I was, but that's just because I was making a joke. But yeah, I think he made the right choice. He floated like a butterfly and ran like a bee.
Things like when I pee.
But yeah, we basically this is just like an opening sequence to kind of put Bart and Homer together, and more importantly than anything, to find this like tiki god statue thing.
That's after Homer finds a new muscle shirt.
Yeah, which it was a sports bra, right?
Yeah, it ended up being a sports bra. He's like, yeah, I've never felt such good support.
Hey man, if it's comfortable, work it.
Yeah.
Bart finds some discarded hair from the barber shop, which Homer uses like as a mustache to be Italian really quick.
Which is not Italian at all. It's just terrible, terrible accent. That's when he sees the tiki. And
that's right. It's like a Hawaiian tiki carving. And we immediately cut to the next day back at the Simpsons house. And as Marge is walking through her kitchen, you kind of get that like heat effect where things are a little wavy or like gas is in the room type of thing. And it turns out it's because gas is in the room. She's worried it's a gas leak, but Homer has just ran from the kitchen a garden hose out to his tiki statue, making it breathe fire.
I mean, it's a smart idea.
It looks dope as hell, and it even gets Ned Flanders' attention. And I think it's like Homer says something like, "Shut up, Flanders. Can your god breathe fire?"
My god's the same as your god.
Then he makes fire blow at Ned, and he's like, "Irregardless, I am your god now."
Homer, you can't just reroute the gas line. Do you know how dangerous that is?
Do anger talkie tiki. I am all power.
Tip over.
As he's like doing this god voice, the very dangerous fire breathing tiki torch like falls over, and instead of like dealing with the problem,
It catches on fire too.
Yeah.
Like it's
like
burning.
It causes a significant issue that Marge is now going to have to deal with because Homer just screams and then calmly says, "I'll be at Moe's," before running over the hedges.
So yeah, a very long roundabout way to get him to Moe's.
Yeah, really. They just like needed some excuse to get him there because I guess they didn't want to open on him at Moe's. And we do the thing where we kind of cut into like mid-story as Lenny's talking. So I says to the cop, "No, you're driving under the influence of being a jerk." And like everybody's loving this Lenny anecdote except for Barney, who just kind of sighs in a depressed manner.
Hey, Barney, what's with the glum face? You glum or something? Hey, glummy?
You know, it was my birthday last week and no one remembered.
What are you, nuts?
I threw you a party at my house.
You lie. Why would I not remember my own birthday?
And that's when Moe actually kind of has to explain and show some like videotape, essentially video evidence that there really was a party for Barney, but Moe accidentally uses the wrong tape, and instead it's him very creepily like spying on his female mail carrier
through the mail slot.
Yeah, and it's like super, super creepy, honestly. Like he's very much like it's a like it's very clearly implying that he is having a happy little time looking at his mail lady.
And we just got sympathy for Moe like a few weeks ago, and now it's like just all
that
gone
right away. Yep, he's back to just being a likeless pervert. We're all good. Then we actually get him trying to do the right tape where we see Marge actually says, "I wrote a poem for Barney on this special occasion. Now that you're 1 year older, the time flew by so fast."
And then the camera points to Santa's little helper who's licking himself.
Bart, give me that. So Bart kind of ruins Barney's birthday video by getting the dog licking his balls.
But then it cuts to another scene with Barney on the couch talking to Lisa.
And Lisa looks very uncomfortable for what it's worth.
"I'm just saying that when we die, there's going to be a planet for the French, a planet for the Chinese, and we'll all be a lot happier."
Mr. Gumble, you're upsetting me.
No, I'm not.
And to Barney's credit, in this sequence, we see the real-time Barney watching this tape, and Barney looks legit horrified at himself that he would make Lisa feel that way. So it is kind of like Lisa in a very uncomfortable position, but like Barney is like, it's like his wake-up call that like, oh my God, is that what I look like when I'm drunk? Which Homer replies, "You wish. That's the stage we call Professor Barney. Talkative, coherent, even insightful. Here's drunk Barney." And they cut to the next part of the tape.
And Barney is dressed in Marge's dress with a wig on, with makeup on. And
it looks like the shotgun clown makeup more than Marge's actual makeup.
Yeah.
And he's like stumbling down the stairs singing, or not really singing, but just like in a high-pitched voice. "Well, I'm off to market." Blah.
"Marge, you're making a complete fool of your... Oh, it's just Barney."
And then sadly, Barney like leans over the banister, cracks through the stairs, and like crashes to the floor, spilling his beer.
And there's an alcohol table below, and he destroys the alcohol table. So
that's right.
It's all over the carpet.
But he's like, and that's the part that he's freaking out about. He's like, "Precious alcohol soaking into the shag." And he starts trying to suck the booze out of the carpet. And then Santa's little helper comes up and growls, but he just growls back.
Gets him to run away. It's not a pretty sight.
It really isn't. It's one of those, like, if you legit black this type of stuff out, it would be very uncomfortable, which is kind of the point that you brought up earlier before we got into the start of the episode. Barney realizes here he's a disgrace. Homer points out, yeah, disgracefully hilarious. But the point is Barney really is having a wake-up call here. And there's a lot that's just kind of interesting about this. For one, we said that Dan Castellaneta wrote this episode. He also voices Barney, who is an alcoholic, but Dan in real life is actually a teetotaler, which is somebody who doesn't drink alcohol.
Oh, really?
That is a fact about him.
Interesting. That's interesting that they would decide to write a script getting into this kind of stuff too. So,
Well, and that kind of almost feels like where there's some like heavy-handedness to it, or just like a layer of realness to it that I don't know if that's a direct correlation from Dan's life, or if that's just where the script came from. But yeah, it definitely seems like there's part of this episode that just have a deeper meaning or message than like an average Simpsons plot might.
Right. That's kind of how I took the episode too. Huh.
And it kind of gives it a strange vibe in a lot of ways. I won't lie. Like there's definitely parts of it that make you laugh. Don't get me wrong, but like you mentioned up top, there's parts of this episode where you're like, you're kind of making me uncomfortable with how often I laugh at Barney's antics.
Or if I've done something along those lines before in my life.
I wish I could remember, but alcohol has a way.
I hope I never dressed up as Miles's wife and said I was off to market.
Yeah. Well, not that you remember.
Did I embarrass you?
No, but you wasted a lot of alcohol, and that was a shame.
That doesn't sound like me.
We see though that they're trying to comfort Barney, make him feel better. They actually still had some presents to get him. Carl got him morning after stationery, which is basically stationery to remind yourselves of all the stuff you did while you're drunk.
Yeah, I'm sorry for what I did last night or whatever.
Yeah.
Lines to write in the blanks. Oh my gosh.
Mo actually got Barney a coupon for helicopter flying lessons, but it seemed almost kind of malicious, or he was like making fun of Barney, because it's like, can you imagine a booze hound like you flying a helicopter?
The wheel of a whirly bird.
Yeah.
He'd be all like, look at me, I'm a tanked up loser in a helicopter.
And again, everybody's laughing, but you can tell Barney is like taking this seriously to heart.
So I'm a tanked up loser? Is that how you see me?
Oh, sounds like a certain loser could use some tanking up. And he pours him another beer. But surprisingly, Barney does not take the mug. He actually pushes it away, gets up, and walks out, which it seems like that's something he's done before. But this time, he has a message for him.
I'll show you. I'm going to take these helicopter lessons.
Wait a minute, Barney. You've got to be sober to fly. I mean, it's not like driving a car.
Then I'm going to quit drinking.
And immediately the entire bar laughs.
No, I mean it. You won't see me here again, ever.
Again, every time he makes a larger point, all the way up to the point that he slams the door, the guys just keep laughing louder and louder and louder until Mo realizes something very important.
Wait, that ain't funny. He's my best customer. Well, the handwriting's on the wall. To stay afloat, this bar's going to have to go queer.
And we immediately cut out, like we do the classic thing they do in so many episodes, where they pull back from a close-up on the bar to a wide shot, and we see one lonely man at the end of the bar that we've never seen before, who simply replies to this, "You mean it's not?" Wrong again. And then he picks up his book, which was The Gay Guide to Springfield, and tosses it in the trash. And that actually brings us to the end of our first act, a pretty quick one, just really just kind of setting the tone for what we're going to see happen throughout the course of our second and third act of this episode. But for the time being, at least, it seems like our favorite booze hound is sober. We actually see that Barney is taking this seriously. He's like not showing up at Moe's, but he does actually have to travel through Moe's to get to the rest of his life, because we find out that apparently Barney lives in an apartment above Moe's, complete with a fire pole that slides right down to the bar.
I mean, no wonder he could be drunk all the time, because literally he just has to walk up a set of stairs to be home.
Yeah, honestly, it actually makes it seem a lot less tragic in so many ways.
Yeah, but then tragic all at the same time.
Yeah. Barney walks right by Mo and the barflies and heads out of the bar so he can go to an AA meeting where he actually is at the wrong place, though, because the clerk, when he says, "My name's Barney and I'm an alcoholic," we see the clerk respond,
I feel for you, Pally, but you want AA. This is AAA.
And then Homer, who's like helping his friend, pops up. "Oh, my name's Homer and I'm planning a trip to St. Louis."
You St. Louis?
Is there any other St. Louis?
Oh, shots fired.
Honestly, I don't understand. Like, in my knowledge of St. Louis versus East St. Louis is East St. Louis is like a very like rundown part of St. Louis. I don't know much about the socioeconomic situation in Missouri, though. I'll be real.
Yeah, neither do I. But it sounds like it was a deep cut.
Yeah, it felt targeted for sure. They do find themselves at an actual AA meeting at the First Church of Springfield, which I absolutely love. Possibly one of my favorite jokes in the whole episode, just hiding in the background. On the whiteboard during the AA meetings, one of the talking points is what to do with your hands at a party.
I didn't even catch it. That's such an interesting thought. Because usually you're holding a beer can. Like, I get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
What I thought was interesting in the scene is we have Milhouse's dad, Kirk, and I thought I saw Milhouse's mom's boyfriend in the audience as well.
Oh, interesting.
Like, it looked like him with a shirt on, basically, and I thought, are they both in an AA meeting together? Like, that would be a real interesting conversation to watch.
That would be awkward, I think, for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
We also see familiar faces Gil and Lindsay Nagel, which there's actually an entire joke here with Lindsay Nagel that's really interesting because it was written making fun of so much of what happens in Hollywood. But basically, they get to the AA meeting. Kirk welcomes them, saying, "I see you've finally hit rock bottom," which Homer has a great response here.
Not a chance. I can sink way lower. I just came to help my friend Barney.
So true. But that's when Lindsay pops in. "We all know why we're here, don't we? To keep ourselves sober and to network. So let's get started." And that is really just making fun of like the Hollywood lifestyle that's so prevalent. And basically writers and the people in the writer's room personally know like agents and people of that nature who have literally gone to AA meetings, not to actually seek help, but just to network with people that they knew would be there.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Which is really shitty in a lot of ways. Yeah.
It's terrible, but like not surprising in the least. Ugh. I need to wash my mouth and my ears and my eyes now.
We also get a really funny bit with Gil, who we found out isn't actually an alcoholic. In fact, he never touches the stuff. But you don't have to be a drunk to know the value of Amway.
Speaking of which.
Yeah, again, everyone's there for their own purposes. But Barney is, in fact, actually trying to get help. He really wants to quit drinking. And Lindsay promises that there will be help along with sugar cookies, but that immediately distracts Homer, who's just like, "Are there really cookies here?"
Or are they more metaphorical messages?
And then he immediately eats all of their cookies, which is also just a very Homer thing to do.
Hey, he took his friend to the meeting. He deserves a cookie.
I guess so, yeah. Oh my God, no! Another great joke. They're across the room, and he says, "Oh, they're too far away. Taking 12 steps to reach." Get it? Good old 12-step program.
Nobody liked that joke for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's fair. We get back to our B plot, which is actually with Bart and Lisa pairing up for a fun little adventure.
Back to our B plot? You mean we start
our B plot? Yeah, I guess we never really touched base with it, but we see back at home Bart and Lisa are watching the Teletubbies, or a show that's very similar to the Teletubbies, which seems a little below their age demographic. I won't lie.
Sometimes,
but I think,
though, especially if it's summer and you're bored, like whatever comes on TV, you're like, I
gotta
don't
deal
want
with
to
it.
change it. That's how I started watching Jerry Springer when I was younger. Too lazy to get up and change the channel.
I love Jerry Springer. I was lover, but like I would put that more in tune with like you fell asleep watching Nickelodeon, you wake up and Nick Jr.'s on, and you don't really want to watch Nick Jr., but there's nothing else on. So you know,
Big Little Bear's on, and I don't know what to do now.
Yeah, dude. I'll hang out with Big in his house for a minute.
I don't even remember if that was his name or not, but I think it was.
It sounded right. I was going with it. But the more important part of this this show is actually the commercial it cuts to, because the Springfield phone book needs a new cover.
It does?
Send us your snapshots, and if we select yours, you could win a fabulous mystery prize. But we see that the mystery prize is very clearly a bike. It's wrapped, to be fair, with paper, but even at the end of the commercial, a kid jumps on the bike and rides it still wrapped up somehow.
That is an amazing wrapping job.
Yeah.
Wrap that bike like his
way better than Ezekiel Elliott's wrapping job. Call back to our conversation we had before this podcast started.
Well, this episode will air after the episode's like weeks old, but the first episode of Hard Knocks was just on last night, so there you go.
Yep, that's what it's all about. So this whole concept, honestly, is dated for a lot of reasons. For one, phone books. Do we still use those? I legit do not remember the last time I saw an actual phone book.
I think so. I think people still get phone books. I mean, you could dial a cell phone. If you can't Google what you're looking for, I guess you need the phone book.
I think like yellowpages.com still exists, but I don't think like the Yellow Page book still exists. Again, I could be wrong. Let me know if you have a phone book.
Miles,
I'd be interested.
Those trees have already been cut down. They need to be put to use. So
yeah, otherwise they died for nothing.
Oh.
At least if we make a phone book out of it, a strong man can demonstrate that they can tear it in half, right? Like it gives a
middle school. What's the gathering in the auditorium called?
An assembly?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they sell their celibacy rings afterwards.
Not only is this phone book like an outdated concept, I think that the idea that they would be holding a photo contest to have your picture put on the front of it is also something that just like would not exist at all today.
I think they'd just be uploading millions of pictures online to the website.
Yeah, that's true. It'd be completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But the kids decide that they're gonna, take this challenge and enter this contest because, after all, the old photo shouldn't be too hard to beat. And they hold up, and it's just like a very evil-looking photo of Mr. Burns grinning.
Ew.
And this is actually a fun scene because Bart and Lisa rummage through their apparently like just memorabilia closet that they've had this whole time. That
never existed. Yeah.
They're looking for the old camera so that they can take pictures, but as they're inside, there are a bunch of stuff in this closet. I mean, there's a Mr. Plow jacket. There's a Mr. Sparkle box. There's like the tiki. Like there's a bunch of stuff referencing older episodes. Like way too many to name everything.
Yeah, the Mr. Plow is the thing that like really stood out to me. Like it just. For some reason, it was just attention grabbing. Where I was like, "Oh, hey, look at that! Oh, crap, it's all in there."
There was the hat and the flute thing from when Lisa like took over the chance, whatever. Like when they're ringing the bell, and she proves that Jebediah Springfield was like a pirate or whatever.
Yeah, there was the Homer's Grammy too, I think, or Emmy.
Oh my god, dude! It's I think they took an Emmy and then like Lisa like just like completely casually throws it aside as if it's garbage.
Yep, that's what they do.
Hilarious.
Grammy.
So Bart and Lisa are on to try to, come up with some epic photo. And we cut back to Barney's scene to see what's going on with sober Barney, who has now mustered up enough courage without the liquid type of it to approach the helicopter school. And he talks with apparently Arnie Pie is how it's listed. I did not recognize Arnie in this.
No,
I won't lie.
There was the helicopter pilot, and the guy standing next to him was Arnie Pie.
He was talking to Arnie Pie. Got it. Okay, cool. The Barney presents this like very generic looking coupon to this guy.
No. First, the guy's like, "It takes a special kind of man to fly a helicopter," and then Barney's
I have a coupon.
Oh well, what did you say? So come on
aboard. And we immediately get cut to Barney now. Again, I guess we should note that Barney like looks significantly different than he does when he's drunk. He's not back. He looks like he's taking more care of himself. He looks healthier in general. So like the art department did a great job. Animation really did a good job conveying that like this is a lifestyle change for Barney at this point.
Yep, he looks like he's following through on his promise.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It actually seems like he's sticking to his word at this point. And at first, the helicopter lesson seems like it's just the pilot driving and telling anecdotes about like people who've played chopper pilots in movies, like Elvis, for instance. But eventually, he does say, "Well, we're nice and level now, so you want to take the controls?"
You think I'm ready?
Sure, I do. And 1 second, testing black box 1 2. Ah! All right, she's all yours, friend.
Hey, I think I'm getting it.
And amazingly, Barney is actually doing really well. I mean, he's a little wobbly at first, but he's doing this for the first time. And the pilot even reassures him, like, yeah, that's great. Now let's just pull ourselves out of this tailspin here. And we cut. And even though they're very calm, they're pointed straight at the ground and like looking like they're in imminent death. But fortunately, Barney's able to pull back and flatten out.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. That's what the diapers are for. I do want to know you are totally doing drunk Barney voice.
That's because I don't know how to do this everyone. I've already been thinking about that.
It's totally cool. I just want to make it clear for people listening that
he was
like
drunk piloting.
His voice during this time is also different. Like it's Dan is a very talented voice actor, and he can make.
What are you trying to say, Miles? What are you trying to say?
We are trash compared to Dan Castellaneta, Richie, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry to be the one to have to tell you.
I'll show you. I'm going to take those helicopter flying lessons. Oh, wait, I can't. Damn it. I want to point out that I work somewhere where I get to talk with pilots and talk with people that take flying classes. And I heard somebody told me recently that they went with their daughter on a joint flying lesson. And that's basically how they do it when they take you up in the plane the first time. They get you to where the plane's level and they go, okay, fly it.
That's dope.
When you know the instructor a little bit. So they did when they're actually after you've done the classic and they're giving you a little practice.
Have you played video games where you fly before? Oh, perfect. We're going to skip right to day 3.
There you go, right there. But I mean, obviously the pilot is also there so that if something goes wrong, they can take control back. But yeah, somebody was telling me a story actually like about a week ago about how this happened with them. They said, yeah, like the planes basically fly themselves once you're up there.
That's really cool, honestly. I've actually always wanted to take flying lessons. I think that'd be really cool, but it's very expensive, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
I don't drink at any bar well enough for the bartender to get me a coupon for flying lessons.
Well, the
new life goals.
The mistake is that you don't live above the bar, Miles.
Yeah, honestly, that's where it's really at. I can save all that money on having a car and driving that way.
I'm half expecting that coupon to be expired, but they went ahead and used it anyways.
How long does a flying coupon last? I feel like that's got to have a pretty long expiration date on it.
Well, yeah. I'm sure there's a flying joke in there somewhere. I just couldn't think of one quick enough.
Just sailed right over our heads. That's all good.
There you
go. We cut back to our B plot with Lisa and Bart, who are having a little bit of issues right now because they seem to have a different envision for what they like, what type of shot they want to get. Lisa is taking a long time to set up a shot where they can get a picture of a mama bird feeding her babies. But then
on
Bart
Jebediah Springfield's head.
Yeah, honestly, it seems like for Springfield, that actually does seem like it'd be like a good shot. But Bart is like, Lisa, people these days don't want to see a baby bird. They just want to see celebrities at their worst. And just then Rainier Wolfcastle comes out of the Quickie Mart holding a chili dog and looking a little pudgy.
Is that Rainier Wolfcastle?
Check out the gut.
It's for a movie. I'm playing a fat secret agent.
That's a fun role to prepare for.
But not a fun role to unprepare for.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to have to go back to playing the fit agent after that, for sure. Or no Radioactive Man movies for a while. We see Homer stops back by at Moe's to get a drink, and Moe is treating him a little unusually. He's being extra friendly. He's encouraging Homer to sit right next to the tap. But Homer immediately gets like weird vibes from this. He's just like, hey, are you trying to make me the new Barney? Moe explains every bar needs a world-class drunk.
Yeah. Now dance, Rummy.
I think it's either Lenny or Carl say like, yeah, we need someone to drink so much it makes us feel less bad about our raging alcoholism.
True.
But
that's when I tell him to dance, Rummy.
Yeah, and the weird part about that is he does. Homer hasn't even had a single drink since he's walked into Moe's, but he immediately starts dancing at their commands. And actually, that's funny too, because they cut back to the house and Marge is immediately calling him out, like, "You dance for hours just because they told you to?"
I didn't. I'd lose their respect.
But their conversation about how much Homer should try to keep the respect to the barflies is cut off when Barney.
I think Marge is reading a Meddling Today magazine.
She is.
Which was really funny.
Yeah. Her magazine of choice is Meddling Today.
Yep.
But then that's all interrupted when Barney actually flies the helicopter onto the Simpsons front lawn, causing stuff in the house and yard to be blown about. Marge is really upset, and Barney's actually inviting Homer to go for a ride. Homer gets really childlike in this scene. He's like, "Ooh, can I, Marge? Please, can I?" And
yes,
she's like, "Oh, just get out of here!" Yes,
the wind's all the freaking wind's blowing through the freaking window. And the interesting part is Homer's in his PJs, but in the very next scene, he's fully dressed. So that means he had to take the time to take his clothes with him when all the crap is blowing through the house.
Yeah. Maybe it just blew out of the drawer for him. The helicopter dressed him that day.
That would be nice.
The interesting thing as we cut to the pilot ride, Barney and Homer are in the front seat, and the helicopter trainer is in the back seat at this point. So Barney's clearly been progressing. The funny thing about it, though, is Homer is actually talking to Barney as if he's been missing out. He's like, "You've missed some really big changes at Moe's. He hangs newspapers over the urinals now. You can read the sports page while you pee. Very la-di-da."
I've made some big changes, too. Can you believe I'm flying this helicopter?
And then then the pilot from the back leans forward. Power lines, power lines.
Whoops, sorry.
And we see he just barely misses the Springfield power lines. But Barney is actually having a real moment of reflection here.
When I think about all the time I wasted at Moe's.
Wasted? What about our staring contest? And the way we always knew what football coaches should have done. Remember the day we jumped that census guy and stole his clicker?
Those are all priceless memories, Homer, but I don't want to do that stuff anymore.
And this is where we kind of get a little bit of friction between friends here. So far, Homer has been supportive of his friend Barney, trying to help him, encourage him to get healthy, but at the same time, not really taking him seriously. I think everybody is just waiting for Barney to get over his little stint or whatever. But this is where Homer and Barney actually kind of have a argument. Homer feels like Barney thinks he's better than him. And it really does almost seem like Homer's just being extra jealous here in this moment. But
well, he's the new Barney, so that plays into it too.
Yeah. But Homer gets upset and just tells Barney to take him home.
Oh, don't be that way, Homer.
I'll scream.
Okay.
Once again, the helicopter just lands right on the Simpsons front lawn, which you have to give Barney props. That was a hell of a landing job.
Yeah.
But we see that when Homer gets home, he's kind of sulking. Marge asks how his ride was, and he's like, "I don't want to talk about it." But he starts to cry, and then he runs up. They even said in the commentary, he almost turned into a teenage girl in this scene. And he ran up the stairs crying, and that's actually how we end our third act.
Marge just deciding up there, and whatever, and walks.
She just mez it, yeah, completely ignores it, gets back to her laundry.
Was that a wrestling thing?
No, that was a Simpsons thing. Meh.
Well, I thought you said mez,
no, meh.
I thought you were trying to
MEH' is what I was trying to pronounce there.
I thought, oh, wait, that was the Miz that you would have made a reference with wrestling to. Okay, I got you. I thought you were making some clever joke that nobody cares about.
You didn't smell what I was cooking on that one, homie.
That's all right. I think I'll survive.
That does actually bring us to the end of our second act. Again, this one was, to be fair, this was a 7-minute act. We're now at the 12.5-minute mark. But my point being is they've left a lot of time for resolution in this third act.
Yes.
We start with Homer still angry with his friend. He's actually punching his pillow, saying, "Stupid Barney thinks he's too good for me."
Cheer up, homie. You don't need friends to be happy. I haven't had a friend in years.
Oh, poor Marge. Homer explains, though, "But you've got me. Who have I got?"
You still have Lenny and Carl.
Oh, Lenny and Carl suck. Oh, please don't tell Lenny and Carl I said that, because if I ever lost them as friends, I'd...
Well, if Barney's that important to you, you've got to work it out. Old friends stick together, like OJ and AC, or the Falcon and the Snowman.
Oh, why can't I have a nickname? Which that is an OJ Simpson, OJ Simpson reference.
Jab.
Yeah, it's his friend AC, who actually I think was the guy who was driving the white Bronco, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That's an old news story that they're referencing on that one.
And was Falcon and the Snowman was like, I mean, that's so close to Winter Soldier on Snowman. Like it's just, it almost works there.
Honestly, let's just assume that's what they meant. That
Simpsons did.
The Falcon and the Snowman is actually a film that came out in 1985 starring Sean Penn.
Oh, wow.
It's a thriller drama.
I honestly did not remember it at all, but I was laughing because it just fits so naturally into Winter Soldier.
It's the true story of friendship and espionage. So it is Winter Soldier in the Falcon. Yeah. They just remade that, and it's all that they did there.
It's the same plot and everything.
We continue our adventure with Lisa and Bart, still trying to get their photograph for the phone listing. They're now trying to go with an animal theme, so they actually set up a real-life sequence of dogs playing poker, but just when they get everything perfect, Nelson pops up and actually steals their picture.
I like at one point, though, Lisa's like, no, Bart, the pug or the whatever.
The
one
pug
of the dogs
forgot
has
to
an
ante.
Yeah.
As if that would be the thing that ruined their picture.
I mean, somebody would point it out on the internet.
Lisa is still trying to brainstorm with her brother. Lisa says, we're never going to get a good picture.
Hey, why don't we dump spaghetti on Maggie's head?
Oh, come on, Bart. That picture is just a cliche.
Picture?
Bart has apparently just given up at this point, just wants to have some fun.
Well, I mean, when they first got the camera out, he was bouncing it around, and he was like, I don't even remember what we were doing.
Yeah, that's right. He was like dribbling it like a basketball, too.
Yeah.
Homer decides to make a quick beer run to the Quickie Mart, but while Apu is in the back, he bumps into Barney at the Quickie Mart, and they have like kind of an awkward but uncomfortable exchange of pleasantries. And Homer essentially gets so uncomfortable, he actually just runs out of the store, not paying for his beer.
You haven't paid for that.
We immediately cut back to Bart and Lisa. We're kind of doing some like back and forth, like almost ping pong style here, storytelling. But that makes sense because these stories are getting closer and closer to connecting as we go along. We see that
alert.
Bart and Lisa are now up at the top of the basically up in the hills of the forest where it like says like Springfield, like it does Hollywood.
And they could just see the whole view of the city from up there, and it honestly looks quite nice.
Yeah, they get to see the Squidport, the monorail, and apparently the building factory in town operates much like a giant Play-Doh factory because they're like literally like squeezing out like different shapes, like stars and even moons, but like apparently for construction materials.
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. Bart decides that makes a good picture, but when he takes it, he actually ejects the old school style flashbulb that hits Lisa, and she actually complains like, ow, that's hot. And it falls to the grass in front of them as they walk away, and the camera lingers on the now smoking glass bulb that actually catches the grass on fire.
Of course, it's Bart's fault.
Always is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Catching up with Homer again, back at Moe's with Lenny and Carl. Homer's actually saying, Lenny, Carl, I know a lot of people badmouth you and focus on how much you suck, which they both look very surprised by this information. But not me. To me, you're true blue.
Aw, thanks, big guy.
But then immediately Lenny's like, now dance, Rummy.
Okay.
And this time Homer dances as they're throwing peanuts at him. But Homer's actually saved when his sober friend Barney comes in and says, hiya, Mo.
Well, if it isn't Little Miss, I'm not wasting my life anymore, which he is.
Mo, I've come here to make amends for my disgraceful behavior over the last 20 years.
Nah, that's okay, Bon.
No, it's not okay. I broke bar stools, befouled your broom closet, and made sweet love to your pool table, which I then befouled.
Well, that would explain the drop off and play.
And Justin, we're interrupted by Kent Brockman on the TV. But before we get to his story, I do want to say that commentary once again comments on this apology sequence, which is kind of funny because the apology scene was actually based on a real life call that Mike Scully got from a writer's agent, essentially, that was apologizing for that writer's behavior. But as they're having this conversation, Mike Scully has no idea who this person is talking about and realizes that this writer has never worked with Mike Scully before. So he's getting a call for no reason. No. But then Mike made fun of this guy for the fact that he's like, he's making amends by having his agent call people. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like,
what?
You can't sidestep the 12-step process, dude. Like, that kind of deletes the point.
Well, unless you're in the airport and you got one of those sideways escalator things that
sure, but when do you ever have those if you're not at an airport?
I'm just saying it's possible. What I want to know is, like, when Bart ejected that flash camera at Lisa, this is a debate I've had for years, Miles. Why is he says heads up? Why is it heads up and not heads down? I
mean, that's as old as the question, why did the chicken cross the road, sir? Like, we're never going to get an answer on that one.
I just, it bothers me.
Yeah, heads up is a way to get yourself smacked in the face.
Okay, I'll jump up in the air. Oh, wait, I'm decapitated by a flashbulb. I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, I didn't even like photography to begin with. This sucks.
Uh-huh.
So we're at the bar. We get interrupted by Kent Brockman, who's delivering this breaking news story of a huge fire on Mount Springfield that has trapped 2 youngsters. And, of course, those youngsters have to be Bart and Lisa. Brockman goes on to say, unfortunately, fire trucks are unavailable to fight the blaze as they're all being used to film the new Burt Reynolds movie, Fireball and Mudflap. Oh. I caught up with Burt on the sets. And even though there are literally Springfield children dying in Springfield, the number one news anchor in Springfield actually cuts to his interview with Burt Reynolds. So, Burt, tell us a little bit about Fireball and Mudflap.
I play Jerry Fireball Mudflap, a feisty Supreme Court justice searching for his birth mother while competing in a cross-country fire truck race. It's garbage. Just makes it even worse.
Yeah, for sure. And Homer realizes how desperate the situation is, even though Homer, we should point out,
they've got cameras pointing to the kids. They've got cameras that can see the kids in the fire. Who's on that camera? Why aren't they helping?
Why aren't they using that helicopter to help?
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. They don't have a rope ladder
in the sky. Who's better at driving a helicopter than Barney?
But we get a very drunk Homer realizing he needs to save his kids, and
he's not drunk yet. He's been dancing. He might be slightly inebriated.
You're right.
He's not drunk yet.
You're right. It's going to get worse. But he realizes at the bar that he's going to need Barney's help, who Barney has never flown solo and doesn't really think he's up for the task. But then they do a bit. Is it Homer that picks up the phone? Is like, Barney, the call is from heroism. Will you accept the charges?
He does.
And we see that Barney is actually doing okay. He's a little nervous. He's shaky. But he is getting Homer towards the mountain where his kids are trapped by fire.
No, he's not. He goes the wrong direction.
Well, Barney hasn't learned right turns yet, so they have to make a few to get that way.
They land on Springfield Bridge or a bridge, and then when everyone's talking to him, then he gets up, and at that point, he only has to make a left turn. I noticed in the animation.
There you go. And yeah, he's parked in the wrong spot, but he'd do great in a race. But Barney's freaking out on this bridge. I can't do this. My nerves are shot. And just then a Duff beer truck comes braking so hard that it jackknifes, and beer tumbles out and lands at Barney's feet. And Barney realizes, beer, that's what I need.
Barney, no, don't.
Yes, I need it. And he opens up the 6-pack and starts to try to drink.
No, you've got to be sober for this. Give me that.
And Homer drinks and immediately realizes,
ew, it's warm.
oh, it's the worst.
Go.
It's a 6-pack, and Barney is trying to get one, but Homer's fighting him off. Barney claims, you can't drink them all.
Oh, yes, I can.
And Homer, in his act of heroism pops all 5 cans at once and chugs them down. Props.
Yeah, that's a lot of beer very quickly.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah. And let me say this, Duff must have a super high alcohol content because this is like instantaneous drunkenness.
I don't know, dude. I think if you drink 6 like Bud Lights in a matter of seconds, you'd get pretty drunk pretty quick.
I think it would take at least 15 minutes.
I mean, just for it to get into your system, sure. But we don't have that much time to pass on a 23-minute episode, sir.
I'm just saying, I mean, Duff beer, instantaneous drunk. I get why Homer likes it so much, I guess.
Homer won't let his friend lose his sobriety for this. He's drunkenly declaring that he loves Barney and he's not going to lose touch after graduation.
You brave man. You took 6 silver bullets for me.
Homer then kind of stirs awake. Stay away from my wife. And he takes a swing at Barney before passing out again.
Misses.
Yep.
Looks like it's up to me.
So Barney doesn't have the liquid courage he had hoped for. His friend took those silver bullets, but he does realize that he is the person that needs to help in this situation. He gets in the helicopter. They fly up to the tallest. Bart and Lisa have like climbed up to the tallest tree in the forest at this point. He's trying to get to him. He actually throws down a rope ladder to them, but then a bear climbs the tree that they're on, climbs over Bart and Lisa, and climbs up the rope ladder, stealing their safety.
Homer, being the mean person that he is, has a pocket knife.
And he cuts the rope ladder. I mean, to be fair, if a bear was crawling into my helicopter, I would cut the rope and drop that bear in a heartbeat, just like Homer did. I mean, I'm not one to be mean to animals, but yeah, that's a weirdly specific situation.
It's your life for the bears, Miles.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with this sacrifice, little buddy. I'm sorry.
Just the bear climbing up the ladder, I think, would tip the helicopter with the weight.
It would completely throw that thing off, especially if you're a new pilot and you don't know how to like counterbalance it.
But at least they do a good thing in the animation on this, where they show the bear landing on its rumpus, and then it gets up and kind of just scampers off,
runs away. Yeah, probably to die in the fire instead. But that's fine.
Yeah, it's a bear. They're good at surviving.
We see that Homer still like freaking out about his kids and trying to drop this bear off of the ladder. He actually ends up falling out of the helicopter.
He walks out of it. He's like, "Oh, it's okay, I'll get you," and he just straight walks out of the helicopter.
But luckily, the way he falls, his foot actually lands on like the skids that are on the bottom, like the metal rails or whatever they are. And that's when his weight, not the bear's, starts to cause the helicopter to do a barrel roll. But Barney, being the very capable, weak old pilot that he is able to save this maneuver.
He just says, "Homer, warn me before you do that again."
Yeah. So in like almost like trapeze style, Barney's able to get the helicopter close enough that Homer can grab his kids. They climb up and get into the copter. Barney essentially saved the day. Bart's congratulating, like, "You did it, Dad."
"You can't prove I did it."
"No, Dad, you saved our lives."
"I could do a lot of things if I had some money."
What? Bart realizes, looking back at their very unique perspective from this helicopter of the burning forest, that they have a perfect photo opportunity. And he takes the snapshot that he is confident is going to win the contest. And we actually cut to sometime later back at the Simpsons household, where the phone book the news has arrived. The phone books have arrived, and Marge proudly announces, "Kids, the new phone books are here, and your picture's on the cover."
"Oh, right.
Whoa, cool. Let me see." And they grab the the phone book to realize that the picture is of them, but not their picture. It's actually them as like infants, both sitting on the toilet together in their diapers.
Oh, I thought they were just straight naked.
Oh, maybe they were naked. Yeah.
Ah!
Isn't that adorable? I guess some baby pictures were on that old roll of film.
Oh, we'll be the laughing stock of the whole town.
Well, at least we won the bike.
Actually, I took the picture, so I gave my prize to the orphanage.
What?
How could you?
Just kidding. I could never do that. And she
No,
brings
it's not. I could not. It's I would.
I would never do that. Yeah. You're right. Big important letter on that. She actually brings the bike out from behind the doorway, and Bart and Lisa both hug Marge with appreciation.
It's a terrible joke.
Yeah, it's that poor orphanage. Homer and Barney have also made up. Their friendship is seemingly fine. They're actually sitting on a bench together in a park. Each of them has a cup in their hands, and we get a great little ending here where it basically turns out that Barney is now addicted to coffee instead of alcohol. And I want to point out that from IMDb, they mentioned that this is in fact a Merkin moment because David Merkin, showrunner from season 5, who is still a executive producer on the show, made that suggestion because he has lots of friends who, in fact, did quit some sort of addicted substance, be it alcohol or drugs, and pretty much all of them end up addicted to coffee.
Yeah, very, very true. Especially on that day and age, Starbucks is blown up on every freaking corner. So, I mean, it's a good joke, honestly.
Yeah. They're having a conversation about it, and Homer's, kind of a little apprehensive to the coffee. He's like, yeah, what do you call this stuff?
A double tall mocha latte.
And he takes a swig and makes like a very face, but he's like, oh yeah, it's not bad. But we can see that over to the side, he's actually pouring a flask into his coffee.
Well, it ain't beer, but at least I got that monkey off my back.
And then that's when he chugs like 4 coffees, like shotgun style.
Gosh, yeah. Oh.
And then he does this classic Barney burp, just with coffee instead of Coors or instead of Duff.
And that's not it, Miles.
We actually get a final reveal as we pull back to a very evil Moe, once again looking or leering. Last time he was leering, it was through his peephole. Mail slot. This time, it's him looking at binoculars at Barney and Moe, but he's standing right next to a cappuccino machine. He's like, nobody gets away from Moe. Nobody. And we actually see that the steam from the cappuccino machine actually obscures, it basically does the fade away for us. But as Moe is laughing evilly, he starts to cough in the steam.
That little cappuccino stand is fancier than everything in his bar combined.
Yeah, he probably had to sell the bar to get the cappuccino machine, actually. That would make the most sense. But that brings us to the end of our 3rd act and to the end of the episode. Richie, is there anything else that you or that book of yours want to say?
They don't do the reset with Barney in this one. And I think he stays sober at least for a couple seasons. Eventually they're going to go back to him being a drunk. And I honestly, I'm interested to see how we feel about it when they do that. And I literally wrote a note where I felt like if I die and someone reads my notes for some reason, if they can read my chicken scratch, they're going to think I'm a terrible human being. Cause I basically wrote I guess the writers thought it's funnier when he's a drunk and it's easier to write comedy for him than when he's not. And I'm just I don't know how I'm going to feel when they switch him back. Cause I think he's funnier when he's the Barney we know as the drunk too. But I think
at what cost, Richie?
Exactly. I think it's going to feel different when they make the switch back because they've already gone down this route. So I'm interested to see how we approach it at that time. This episode definitely feels different as an adult. Like we said at the top of the show, I know lots of us have had moments like Barney's in their lives, and some of us struggle with alcohol at times. So it's it hits a little harder as an adult than when you're a 13, 14-year-old kid laughing at somebody.
I want to drink beer one day.
Yeah, and then especially when you see Homer get drunk instantaneously, which, again, Dan, great job voice acting. You believe that's somebody that has experience being drunk whenever you hear Homer being drunk.
Yeah, and he doesn't. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, it just speaks volumes to Dan's acting ability, considering both of the main characters in this episode were voiced by him. So, I don't know. It was a very, very interesting episode to see as an adult.
Well, your point goes and ties directly into the last thing I wanted to talk about, which is on the commentary. They discussed how very difficult it was to essentially reset this episode because of the nature of to truly reset the episode. They would have to have Barney going back to being drunk, and that seems like kind of a sad ending or a loss in so many ways. I don't know how long his sobriety is going to last. I don't think it's going to be an entire season. I could be wrong. I think we're going to see Barney drunk again before too long, and I don't think it'll last. But I also don't think it'll be the last time we see Barney sober up. So this will be an ongoing arc now that we'll have to consider as we're reviewing these episodes moving forward.
We'll have to wait and see.
One last note for positivity. This episode was actually nominated for an award.
A reward.
A reward, yeah. This episode was nominated for an award specifically for media dealing with the topic of substance abuse, which Dan Castellaneta jokingly said they were called the Alkies. But it did not win. It actually lost to an episode of The Cosby Show, but it was nominated to basically be a positive, basically having like a positive role in the subject of substance abuse is the idea.
Yeah. Interesting.
But that will do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly Review Show. We, of course, appreciate all of you tuning in and listening now for 5 years plus of our bullshit. We look forward to coming back again next week, but before we do, make sure you follow us online. You can follow Richie at thewiz_kid23.
You can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. And most importantly of all, you can follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
We will be back again either next week for another Best Darn Diddly covering Kill the Alligator and Run. Also known as Homer as Florida Man, basically, or we'll have a Best Darn Everything. I haven't decided yet. We'll have to figure that out.
And whatever episode we have, I will be playing Richie the Whiz Kid, and Miles will be playing Mr. Most Days Off. We'll be two podcasters racing to get through an episode of The Simpsons or something else, and it's garbage.
It will be garbage. So until next time, be cromulent to each other.